Welcome to the Drilldown, in-depth answers to oilfield questions. I'm John Spears.
And I'm Richard Spears, wondering
yes,
about all the changes going on in the world these days.
Because you took a little time off last week, I think, right?
I did. I stayed home. I WFH'd.
What's that? Working from home.
I worked from home.
Well, before we get into the topic of this week, I thought that we might spend a moment talking about, the fact that I think a lot of folks are looking for an excuse to get out of town.
I was just looking for an excuse to get out of the office. But you're right. In mid-September, my beautiful wife and I are heading to someplace. I'm not going to say because the federal authorities will come get us.
Yeah, right. I gotcha. Well, I have a few suggestions for folks who might be looking for places to go or, ways to sort of organize themselves. Because I'm a great believer in, if you're going to go out on a trip, to sort of pick a topic, pick an objective, and then sort of go with that. Last summer, for example, for my wife and I, we did pie cafes in the Southeast.
Oh,
and so
you did not bring me back
city
a slice
after
at all.
We ate them all, right? Yeah.
Or big holes in the ground.
So here's my thought. You're right. yeah, we could do that.
Okay, so you're not. So you've got something else.
Yeah, I've got something in mind, and so I was thinking it might be interesting to go visit cities that have interesting nicknames, slogans, sobriquets, and so forth.
Like ours, which is
Magic City, Tulsa. Yeah.
Or it also has the other one.
Oh, the oil capital of the world. Yes.
So it is neither magic nor is it the oil capital, but we've got these really
right.
Great
So you know what I'm talking about. If I said Windy City, you would say
Chicago.
If I said City of Big Shoulders, you would say Chicago as well, I think, right? If you're a fan of Carl Sandburg. But yeah, okay. If you said Sin City, you might think Las Vegas.
Oh, Las Vegas.
Yeah, if I said the Big Apple, you'd be...
New York, because what did Henry, was it O. Henry?
Yeah.
Call New York?
I have
the
no idea.
Baghdad on the Hudson.
Baghdad on the Hudson. Yeah, there you go. If I said the canoe capital of Ohio, you would say Loudonville, for example. So... So with that in mind, so you could sit there and say, okay, I want to go to places that, that honor their names, their slogans honor the agricultural product that this area is known for.
Oh.
Yeah. So if you wanted to, for example, go to the watermelon capital of the world.
Ames, Iowa.
Well, no, there are 7 of them.
Oh, there's 7 capitals of the world?
It's watermelon capitals of the world.
Well, give me one.
Cordell, Georgia. Hope, Arkansas. Where have we heard of that one before?
Oh, yeah.
Weatherford, Texas, Naples, Texas, and so forth. I actually kind of like Knox City, Texas, because it bills itself as the seedless watermelon capital of the world. So in a crowded field, they've tried to
differentiate it.
There you go. Right. You could go with the fruitcake capital of the world. There, you've got 2 choices there.
Key West, Florida.
Oh. Right. Corsicana, Texas, or Claxton, Georgia. Georgia's got a lot of capitals of the world there. Wow. My favorite is the Foghorn capital, the Quad Cities Metroplex, which is Tuscumbia. So that's in Alabama. So
wait, that's not the Quad Cities. The Quad Cities like Moline, Illinois.
Several different Quad Cities. You could even do a Quad City tour of the world if you'd like. So it's something to keep in mind. But if you wanted to stick with just an oil patch theme, I've got to say you need to go to Drumright, Oklahoma.
Why is Drumright?
The town of oil repute. So good, pretty good there. My other favorite, and this is local, it's just a day trip for most of us here in Tulsa, but you could go to Branson, Missouri, which bills itself as Las Vegas if Ned Flanders ran it. So that's
the Christian Las Vegas.
There you go.
What Caroline always said.
Something like that, I think,
all
for
right.
sure. So anyway, this week's topic, I thought it would be interesting to look at what's been going on in the natural gas market. Because
I think that would be an interesting topic, not just for you, but for many people.
Oh, yeah. We hope so, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you've sort of blinked, what you've missed is in the last, I think it's 7 weeks, the price of natural gas has risen by almost 50%.
So in July and in August 2020, the price of gas went from pretty much nothing.
Right, $1.40 to now it's $2.10 as of last week, and today's market it's approaching, getting closer to $2.50. So,
but even that's not the interesting one, is it?
No, the more interesting thing to me is the fact that the future strip for next year has gone from something in the low $2 range to almost $3. I think the future strip as we sit here today is around $2.90 for all of next year. So we've seen a massive increase in expectations for natural gas prices, not just current, but also future prices.
When I hear $2.90, I round it up
to $3, I bet, right?
Yep, that's a nice rememberable number.
So why has it gone up? So, we're sitting here today and there are not one but two different hurricanes that are likely to come ashore in the Gulf of Mexico. And in the old days, that would have been a massive short-term driver for gas prices because, 20 years ago, the Gulf of Mexico produced 25% of the gas that we produced here in the U.S.
So the guys would have gone out, shut down all the wells.
Oh, yeah, and everybody would be on short and prices would have spiked.
But that would be for a week. 2 weeks.
Yeah, right. It would just have affected a short-term market. And these days, the Gulf of Mexico is 5% of the gas we produce. So there's just not nearly the impact. And it would only be short-term. What's driving the 2021 price?
Because I drilled a bunch of oil wells.
Drilled a bunch of oil wells, absolutely. Drilled a bunch of onshore and all these shale plays. So, we've got some hot weather. We have some hurricane activity, and that might affect things short-term. But I think the reason that we're looking at pricing being now expected to be higher for next year has been the recovery that's been going on for the LNG export business here in the U.S. So liquefied natural gas exports have really, that market was very weak this summer. With the pandemic shutting down economies all around the world, what the U.S. market saw was that demand for our LNG exports really headed south.
Now, remind me, 5 years ago, did we have an LNG export market?
We only began to export about 3 years back, right? So,
this was nothing 5 years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Nothing in the equation about LNG exports.
No, and even today, LNG, the exports are maybe 6-7% of the total demand for gas of the gas that we produce here in the U.S. So the LNG market is growing rapidly. It's begun to be noticeable, and I think we're now seeing the effect that the LNG market has on pricing for gas here in the U.S.
Because it's a demand.
It's a demand issue.
It's just like the gas stove that I've got in my kitchen.
Yeah.
It's just like making petrochemicals along the Gulf Coast.
Right.
LNG exports are a demand on U.S. natural gas.
That's exactly right.
So my demand has, from that particular market segment, was nothing for the last, April, May, June?
Oh, so in June and July, I think each of those months saw like 70 LNG export cargoes canceled. 70. Each of those months. And it was like 40 in the current month. But now, as international economies have begun to stand back up, as demand for gas begins to rise, we're seeing a recovery in demand for U.S. LNG exports. The cancellation number for October was, I think, only 10 cargoes. So that gives you some sense that.
So this is like Europe waking up.
Yeah, right. Although we exported gas to 25 different countries, I think, last year. So there's a pretty broad spread demand for our gas, and as these economies have begun to improve and the outlook for our LNG exports have also begun to improve, now we've seen pricing come back. So I think I found one of the keys to the what's really affecting prices for gas here in the U.S. going forward is going to be this LNG market.
Yeah, there's the other part of that. There's the other side of that coin, which is supply of natural gas.
Yes.
Because I think of natural gas, I think of it coming from three places in the United States.
Right.
It comes from the Gulf of Mexico, so we've already talked about that.
Yep.
It comes from the dry gas wells I'm going to drill in North Louisiana, for example,
right,
and some really rich gas wells back east,
right,
and in way South Texas, some in Oklahoma. But where I'm going to have gotten an awful lot of natural gas is because I drilled oil wells. Sure. And when I produce oil, I also produce water and
associated gas, right? So the natural gas you produce from an oil well is called associated gas, and associated gas production is roughly 20% of the gas that we produce here in the U.S. So what's happened there?
I quit drilling oil wells.
Just about, and production of oil has fallen sharply. It's fallen over 2 million barrels a day since the start of this year.
And just because 2 million by itself doesn't mean anything, it was
it's almost 13 now, so it's almost a 20% drop.
And now it's 11.
Yeah, right.
And so is it going to stay at 11?
No, it'll go down from here. If we're right in our forecasts and all the other assumptions you have to make, it will continue to fall. And that would tell me that the gas we produce from these oil wells should fall as well, and that would work to tighten the market for gas. If supply is going down, then we should expect to see and demand is beginning to recover. Market gets tighter. And I think this is the story that we're beginning to see play out on the gas side of things.
I want to be in a business where demand for the thing I make is rising. But my competition is falling.
Oh, right.
I want to be the last man standing in a case like that, because that tells me that generally the price is going to rise in that situation. As long as the thing that I make hasn't been outlawed.
Sure, right. So the competition in this case would be an oil well producing natural gas, right?
Yep.
So if those numbers are softening and likely to get softer, then if I'm in an area where I can drill just a standard gas well, then I should expect to see an improved price for my product.
In about the first full week of September, I'm going to be in Tyler, Texas.
Okay,
so,
right.
Boys and girls, I'll see you down in Tyler, Texas on that Tuesday and on that Wednesday.
You talk about how good times are, right?
Well, exactly. I mean, there's a bunch of folks down there who's, I mean, it's a gas province in East Texas and North Louisiana.
Sure, right.
And this is their time.
Sure.
They're back, baby. It may be feel a little early still.
Right.
But wouldn't you far rather be in Tyler, Texas and, Bossier, Louisiana, Shreveport, Louisiana,
sure, right.
than in Odessa, Texas right now?
Well, that's absolutely right. Yeah. So, so good. You can go down there, talk to them about
whatever I'm going to talk about.
Exactly. But how gas prices are getting better, and maybe along the way you can find some place that sells watermelons, and you can enjoy their product. How's that sound?
Corsicana, Texas.
Here you go. Anyway, thanks so much for listening. This has been the Drill Down. I'm John Spears.
And I'm Richard Spears.